Virginia Hall was a female handicapped spy who worked from 1940 to 1966 and helped put an end to World War II. Because Virginia Hall communicated with the SOE, OSS, and CIA by writing activity reports, letters, talking through non-wire radios, and using code names, the Allies won the war.
Virginia was born on April 6, 1906 in Baltimore, Maryland. Her parents were Barbara and Edwin Hall. From elementary to high school, she attended the Roland Park Country School. Hall attended Ratcliffe College, then Barnard, the prestigious women's college. She studied several languages, including German, Italian, and French. After graduating from Barnard, she went to Europe to continue her studies. When in Europe, she traveled to Germany, France, and Austria in the late 1920s. In 1931, she began working at the American Embassy in Warsaw, Poland, as a clerk for the consular service. In 1932, Hall got caught in a hunting accident, causing her to lose her leg and replace it with a wooden leg, which she affectionately named Cuthbert. In 1940, while World War II was spreading across Europe, Virginia worked in Paris as an ambulance driver to help in the war effort in France.
When France fell to the Nazis, Virginia was able to escape into Britain and met George Bellows, an undercover British agent who was impressed by her skills. He then gave her the number of Nicholas Bodington, a senior officer for the SOE. Hall tried to go back to France, but was unable to, and regaled Bodington with her desire to return to France while having dinner with him and his family. The next day, Bodington convinced the other members of the SOE that her American nationality would be beneficial and arranged to cover it as a journalist with help from the New York Post. Virginia was recruited and trained and then smuggled back into France in a boat. During her first post in Vichy, she befriended Suzanne Bertillon, the chief censor of foreign press in Vichy's Ministry of Information. Suzanne actively created a network of 90 contacts, enabling the collection of information on fuel depots, troop movements, and even knowledge of the construction of a secret Nazi submarine base at Marseille, which was subsequently destroyed by Allied bombs before it could be completed.
One of her missions was Project Corsica. Project Corsica was to smuggle other SOE agents out of prison. Virginia smuggled cans and pliers to one of the agents who was, fortunately for them, a metal worker who copied the prison key from memory. As he worked, the other prisoners sang loudly to cover him. Virginia then bribed 2 guards, and with their help, they escaped from jail. Betrayed in 1942, she used the escape routes that she'd established to flee to Spain, which landed her on Germany's most wanted list. Uncoincidentally, on Friday, November 13, 1942, Klaus Barbie raided and arrested nearly all of her spy circuit. Barbie was the infamous Butcher of Lyon. He tortured and killed thousands of French and often brought a cat to torture. He knew that Hall would continue to be a problem and said, "I would give anything to lay my hands on that bitch." But he wasn't quick enough to capture the limping lady.
In March 1944, Hall joined the Office of Strategic Services when it became clear the SOE wasn't going to put her back in action anytime soon. Hall soon returned to France via a motor torpedo fleet and contacted the French resistance in central France. She served as a radio operator for the OSS. In September of 1945, Hall became the first woman to be awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. In 1951, she joined the CIA as an intelligence analyst. When working, her appearance changed constantly. She could be 4 different women with 4 different code names in one afternoon. She retired in 1966 and died on July 8, 1982.
Virginia Hall was able to communicate as a spy in multiple ways. During her time in the SOE, she worked undercover as a journalist with the code name Marie, passing secret information through her articles. Her cover as a journalist for the New York Post meant that she could encode intelligence in her published reports, making her one of their most valuable agents. During her time in Lyon, she persuaded nuns to help her and befriended a female brothel owner, which allowed her to receive more information. She led French resistance fighters and set up safe houses and intelligence she gathered. Hall couldn't talk openly about her leg to stay undercover, so she gave it a nickname, Cuthbert. When the Germans were after her, she decided to escape France and cross the border to Spain, but this meant she had to trek through the mountains separating the countries. She was able to relay a message to her handlers in London that Cuthbert was troubling her. The reply was, "If Cuthbert is giving you difficulty, have him eliminated."
During her time in the OSS, she communicated through wireless radios, sometimes powered by bicycles. Virginia also used a suitcase radio to send messages about German troop movements to London and to coordinate parachute drops for French resistance. She traveled back to France disguised as an elderly woman and lived with the farmer's family, selling milk and cheese to Germans while eavesdropping on their conversations. When she got back to the farm, she would wire any information she obtained to her radio.
She learned clandestine tradecraft, Morse code, map reading, and operational planning. During a 2-month period in mid-1944, Hall sent 37 intelligence reports, oversaw 27 parachute drops of material for the French resistance, and coordinated the efforts of 1,500 resistance fighters. She also oversaw innumerable attacks, managed dozens of acts of sabotage that disrupted German logistics and reinforcements, and integrated a joint SOE-OSS operational team into her area of operations. Virginia Hall was able to provide valuable information, led plans to attack the Germans, and rescued captured allies as a spy.
Though Hall herself was gone, the impact she made on the world remains. Because of her, the SOE and the OSS were able to secure multiple victories over the Germans and rescue many prisoners of war. The CIA named a training facility after Virginia. The CIA also keeps one of her paintings in their headquarters.
Not only are there 3 newly published books about Hall, but 2 movies are in the works as well. Her efforts during World War II led to an award being named after her.
Before I begin with the presentation of the award on behalf of Virginia Hall, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't think about the men and women, the sentinels of freedom who are serving abroad from both the intelligence community, from our special operations forces, and all the men and women of our armed forces who are abroad tonight. Thank you. Hey, great thanks to Charles Pink and the OSS Society for hosting this event. It's with deepest respect that I present this year's Virginia Hall Award. The shared history that binds the intelligence community and special operations forces echoes a legacy of quiet professionals. These professionals, both uniformed and civilian, rally around a common purpose, and that is to protect the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, both here and abroad. No one exemplifies this legacy more than Virginia Hall, a woman who overcame social barriers, physical barriers, and her fair share of prejudice to serve her country at any cost. We inducted her this year into the SOCOM Hall of Fame, and to meet her family members and to hear their stories of what Virginia Hall did to serve our country, as General Hugo just talked about, are incredible.
Virginia was a great female role model because she didn't let anything get in her way, not even discrimination for her leg or for her gender. Virginia Hall has impacted the world through her work as a spy, communicating information she discovered and helping the Allies win the war.